Hey everybody, it's Kneecap here, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the recent drama of, I wish we didn't call it Warcraft. A lot of vitriol and anger has been coming out the last few days. I'm going to give a little bit different perspective about it probably, and we're going to get into a lot of different parts of it if you're interested in the topic. I know drama might not always matter, and maybe you should ignore it sometimes, but I really, especially because of the hate that Holly specifically is getting, Holly Longdale, who I think has been great for World of Warcraft overall. I think it's really important to address it. So instead of ignoring it like I do some of the drama that happens, I'm actually going to talk about this one. But I think it's really important, first of all, that we actually listen to the part of the interview that got clipped and rage baited, essentially. And I think for some people, it'll probably, even if they are angry about it, it'll probably still be some people's first time listening to it because they probably didn't actually listen to it. So let's go through and listen to the part. I already have it queued up close to the part, and we'll actually hear what was actually said. So let's go through this here. This is Game Business interview here. So World of Warcraft bosses on aging players.
I don't know if that's remotely possible, but like, what's the long-term vision of where you'd like to end up?
I mean, top.
So the question is, I had part of the question cut off there, like the long-term vision, the 5-year plan, the 10-year plan for World of Warcraft, or the Warcraft universe in general.
Top line. We want everybody to be able to play WoW. I will say this for myself. I think Warcraft itself is poised for growth. It's a fantastic IP. I think, in my humble opinion, it's been underutilized.
Okay, so she first off says that she thinks that World of Warcraft can grow, which I agree, especially because of Dragonflight. Dragonflight proved that it could be at its worst place that it was during Shadowlands and regrow. And the reality is, World of Warcraft got a lot of new players since then, and so they're hoping to continue that. That's just the reality. They're hoping to grow the game. I think that's a good thing overall, but there can be negatives to that too, and we can talk about that later.
And I just want to bring it to as many people as possible. And that means, evolving what Warcraft means, what it is, and where it's going. We want it to be approachable, and that's also part of it. Even with Chris Metzen,
So she's about to say the Chris Metzen part. So she said even with Chris Metzen, but she just said she wanted it to be approachable, and people take that the wrong way, because what she's going to say is another way. But approachable doesn't mean one thing. Approachable doesn't mean like silly or easy or whatever. Approachable means like there's not 10,000 systems when you log in. That's part of the whole add-on thing, right? They don't want you to have to feel like you have to download add-ons. They want the game to be more approachable. This is something that they are working on. Will they make it? Will they do it correctly? I don't know, right? That's not for me to decide. I'll judge when the time comes, I guess, on if they are doing that or not. But they're trying to make the game more approachable to players, to new players, to returning players. So she's about to say the Chris Metzen part now.
we talk about, sometimes he's like, man, I wish we hadn't called it Warcraft. Sounds kind of intimidating. I'm like, nobody really thinks that about Warhammer.
So she says, sometimes he's like, man, I wish we didn't call it Warcraft. It sounds so intimidating. It's probably when they are in like a strategy meeting or something saying like, oh, how do we reach these players? And he probably just thinks to himself, well, it's called Warcraft, so it's not reaching those players. It's reaching people who want war, right? And there's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with the people who like war stuff. That's how I started liking the game too. So there's nothing wrong with that. But they're saying, how do we reach more people than just that? Because when it's called Warcraft, you are, especially now, narrowing your audience. 20 years ago, war meant something different than what it does now. Everything evolves. Everyone's anti-war now. 20 years ago, 50% of people were like pro-war. So it's just a different world. We all evolve. The game evolves. We evolve. Not everybody evolves, unfortunately. And I think that's where a lot of the anger comes from. So let's continue this.
It's an understood name, essentially. So this idea of third space in our online worlds.
So she says, and this is why I hate that Holly's getting hate, right? So she says that she disagrees. She's like, nobody thinks of Warhammer that way. It's a fine, like, she's like, the name is fine. The name is great. The IP is great. So she's completely disagreeing, first of all. For the people who are hating on Holly, she's completely disagreeing. She's saying that when Metzen says that jokingly, and she's laughing, and Ian's laughing, Okay, maybe people just don't get context clues or whatever, or speech cues. I'm not sure. She's laughing and Ian's laughing when she's saying it, which means that Chris Metzen is probably also laughing when he's saying it, or he's joking when he's saying it. Like, oh man, if only we didn't call it Warcraft, you know? And she's like, no, and then she's saying that just to make the point that Warcraft is a great title. Like that's like her main point is like it's the name brand. It's awesome. It's good. And yet people are hating on her inexplicably about it. I know it's because she's a woman, right? Oh, she's a woman. You can't. There's a whole sect out there. You know, I'm just gonna say it. It's the Asmongold people, right? They just hate women and everything. If there's a woman, unless it has a boob slider or whatever, right? That's his whole thing. It's very dumb. But let's continue.
We couldn't even define what that means exactly, but we're working on figuring that out. We want people to come in and hang out and have birthdays, have weddings, have raids, grand adventures, play with their friends, meet new friends, like all the things that traditionally for over 20 years World of Warcraft has been good at. And at the same time, we want to take advantage of 20 years of stories that have been told and not told and start bringing it out to the world in a broader way.
So, and by the way, I listened to this interview and had a completely different reaction to everyone else. I couldn't even believe that people were freaking out over this because I thought it was such a good interview. And this was actually one of my favorite parts here because in my opinion, what she's actually saying here is that they're probably going to make like a TV show, another movie, games, like other games of Warcraft. They're going to make more Warcraft stuff. Like they're saying that we're not using the IP enough. We need to make more World of Warcraft stuff. That'll get more people to play the game. That'll also just get more people into the universe. And I thought that was great. And that was like the main takeaway there. And we don't really have to listen to any more past that. But I encourage you to watch the whole interview, especially if this is the first time where you actually heard Holly speak on it. So, again, I watched that whole thing and I had such a good takeaway from that interview. And I had a good thought like of going forward in World of Warcraft, thinking like, hey man, they have a good plan. They're going to get more people playing the game. Maybe in my dream, you know, there'd be like a TV show, a Netflix show, or like another movie because I love the first movie. And maybe they expand the franchise out in like another game. Like I always thought making like a Plunderstorm, a standalone game, would be a really, really cool thing. That way it's not tied directly to World of Warcraft. And so the people who, you know, hate PvP or whatever don't have to deal with it, but make it like its own standalone game. All kinds of things like similar to that, right? And I always thought that would be awesome. And they've always just kind of stayed in their lane and not really gotten out of their lane for the most part, besides the movie, basically. And so I thought the interview was great. So I was completely blown away by people's reaction to it, especially that one little clip of she's laughing and Ian's laughing. And she says, you know, sometimes Chris Metzen says, I wish we didn't call it Warcraft. And like, it's like people are just incapable of picking up on speech cues. I think it's kind of crazy. Like even there, my speech cues, like I raise my voice because I'm like so baffled, right? Like there's different things we do when we talk that kind of lets people know how we're feeling in a lot of ways. And you know, generally you just kind of know these things. And so maybe some people don't, maybe because we're so online now or something like that. People aren't picking them up and people are on their phones and tablets. And so maybe they're not picking up it at school or something. I'm not sure. Like I'm not an expert. I'm not sure how people saw that and didn't think that it was kind of like a joke in the office or whatever that he says that, but he doesn't actually mean it. Like he doesn't mean, oh dang, we shouldn't have called it Warcraft. What a stupid name. He doesn't say that, but I feel like some people think that. Now, how did we get here? How do we get to all this drama and all this hate? Number one, rage baiting. Rage baiting is one of the number one ways to get engagement online. So what you have is any content creator or just even Twitter troll who likes engagement, right? Sees some people, especially like bigger accounts, whether that is an Asmongold or whether that's I don't even know who else ran with it. Maybe Grums did, maybe Pirate Nation, I think, is a Twitter account that always tweets about woke stuff. And they see other people getting engagement, so they kind of go along for the ride. That's something that people do. You'll see that too. A big streamer will stream something, and then other smaller streamers will stream it too to kind of like try to ride the wave, essentially, right? And so you have that. You also have, I already mentioned, like this anti-woman thing. I don't know what this is. It's really actually kind of gross. I get like, let me be clear real quick. First of all, I'm not woke. I don't really like woke stuff. to be completely honest, but I'm also realistic and I'm not like a hateful person either. And so I just don't get this like just open woman hate that's going on, right? And that's definitely some of it on Holly alone, Holly Longdale, is that there's just this open hatred of women, and it's just very, very odd to me. It's really disgusting, honestly. And you know, we have certain people who are propagating that, and it's, you know, it's about political, it's about all this other stuff outside of World of Warcraft, but they seize on things. And especially like if it is someone like Asmongold who used to play World of Warcraft, was known for it, he's obviously going to be a lot more likely to seize onto it than, you know, Ben Shapiro or something, right? Like just, or Hassan or whatever, like whatever political, it doesn't matter what side. A lot of people aren't going to seize on to WoW, but because he used to play WoW, that's why that happens. And I get things can go too far as far as World of Warcraft goes, because I want to be fair. In the past few expansions, there's been a ton of female protagonist characters in the game, and not very many male protagonist characters. There still are some, of course, and the ones that they aren't as like manly, I guess you might say, as some of the past ones. So that is like a real thing you can say, but that doesn't have to jump to that to hating women. Like, you don't have to make that jump. Like, if you're someone who's thinking about making that jump, you can just say like, yeah, man, I would like a couple more buff characters or manly characters in the game, without having to be like, well, now I hate women, right? You don't have to make that big jump. You just don't have to. Trust me, I'm like that. I wouldn't mind some more brawn in the game as well, but I don't hate women. It's kind of easy, right? So that you have that subsect, right? That's a whole subsect on its own. You have these narrative Andes, these lore Andes, and there's a certain subsect of players who, or former players and former players, who always talk about the lore of World of Warcraft and how bad it is and how it needs to be good like the lore it used to be. Now, for the people who are really in it, they at least know the old lore, right? That's true. I just completely disagree with that personally. I don't think the old lore was very good either. Like, the lore is good. I don't think the storylines were that good or well played out. I saw somebody tweet something about how it used to be Shakespearean or something like that, and I almost lost my mind. If that is not the most rose-tinted glasses thing I've ever heard, I don't know what it is. It's a video game. A lot of video games don't have the best writing. Sometimes they do, and those ones are usually really heavily praised. But World of Warcraft has never been one of those. World of Warcraft has never been heavily praised for its in-game thing. A lot of the good lore from World of Warcraft comes from Warcraft, comes from the old books even. It doesn't come from World of Warcraft for the most part. Now, sometimes there are good things in the game. And some of the stuff, even in Midnight, I'm intrigued by, and I'm interested to see where they take it. But yeah, it's never been the most excitingly narrative-driven game, but there is these people who talk about it a lot, say how bad it is now. And again, it's kind of rage baiting, and how good it used to be in the back. Nostalgia baiting, rage baiting, combine it all together. So you have those people as well. Then, of course, you have the people who just hate World of Warcraft, hate Blizzard. Max from Liquid always talks about these people that they're obsessed with it, but they don't even play it, or they do play it, but all they do is hate on it all day. You have those people as well jumping on it. So you have kind of three different groups converging here. And then, of course, like I said, just people who want to jump on the train as well. People who will rage bait everything for engagement, and those people jump on the train as well. And when you have a bunch of people jumping on the same train, it gets to be pretty loud. If it was just one of the groups, maybe it wouldn't have been that loud. Because it was a bunch of groups, I think it got a little bit louder than normal. The problem I have with it personally is not that you can't, have your own opinion about the narrative. Of course you can. It's not because you can't think that the game should have more manly characters or something. Of course you can. It's not because of any of that. It's simply the only reason I'm bringing myself into this is because of like the hate that I'm specifically seeing for Holly. So if you don't know about Holly, she came into the World of Warcraft team. I believe she came from EverQuest. I hope that's correct. But she has a MMO history. When she got here, and once she got any power, I should say, the game immediately started. First of all, even when she got there, the game started getting better. But as soon as she got any kind of power, everything started getting better. She is a main catalyst. I'm not going to say she's the only person, but she is a big catalyst to why the game is so much better than what the direction it was going. Dragonflight was an amazing expansion. It'll never get the love it deserves. Why? Because it came after Shadowlands, which was not a beloved expansion. So whatever happens, the expansion before the one is always going to be kind of like an indicator of what the next one is going to be viewed as. Because the reality is, there are some people who probably never gave Dragonflight a chance because they didn't like Shadowlands. That's just reality. And Shadowlands had a really bad reputation, and it was kind of a deserved reputation. And so, you know, Dragonflight was a really good expansion. I think The War Within was a nice continuation of Dragonflight, but it didn't really feel like a total new expansion. It just did kind of feel like a continuation of Dragonflight. Midnight's going to feel very different. We'll see if it's good or bad, but we'll see how Midnight plays out when it gets here. But like Dragonflight was really good. It brought a lot of players back. It brought in new players as well. So I was very, very happy with Dragonflight. Now, there's also a thing about, you know, as aging players and things are going to be, the game is going to evolve and players are going to evolve. And that turned into well, no, they just made it, well, one group is saying they made it all girly, right? Because they hate women. But then there's another group saying it's like they're using this word Disneyfication. Okay. Now, first of all, if you have to make up a word, then I don't generally think you probably have a very good argument. Disneyfication. What does that mean? What am I seeing on my screen right now that's Disney, for example? I'm not quite sure. I think they're talking maybe about the art style because it's brighter colors. Maybe that's what they're talking about. But I don't think this mount is very Disney. I mean, kind of. I guess there are, especially in older Disney cartoons, I guess they would have like a Tommy gun or something like that. Definitely not current Disney. So my mount's not very Disney. I don't think that this city is super Disney. It's very dwarven. Even the landscape, you know, this isn't super Disney. But I get it. I think that they're talking about is bright colors, but I am just guessing. I'm assuming they mean like the bright colors, and some people say because the good guy always wins or something like that, or everyone becomes friends. I don't know. But again, that's not even necessarily always true in Disney movies, but sometimes it is for sure. But I don't generally agree with that. For me personally, I've kind of evolved with the game. So there's only been 2 times where I haven't really enjoyed the game. One was during Mists of Pandaria, and that's because, again, I was growing in my own life. I was in a very serious relationship with my now wife, and I didn't have time to do all the dailies that Mists of Pandaria kind of wanted you to do. I didn't have time to do it, so I stopped playing for a while. And, you know, then we got Warlords, which was like super casual friendly because you just sat in your garrison all the time. So that, for that place in my life, it was a lot better. Then later on I had kids, and the game kind of evolved in another way that kind of went with me as well. It's, especially if you have kids, you might know, you get a little bit softer, you get a little bit more thoughtful, you try to be a little bit more wise, a little bit more fatherly. And I felt like the game evolved a little bit there too. And that's another thing. I was going to make a separate video on this months ago when people were talking about it. Maybe it was even a year or 2 ago at this point. But about how there's no manly characters anymore. And, you know, like I said, even I would like to see some more brawny characters. And if you notice, I keep using different words to describe it other than manly. That's because manly can mean more than one thing. So in particular, one thing that really came to my mind was during the Arethi Highlands quest line, where, goodness, I can't even remember the girl's name. She is the one-armed lady. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name. She was coming back to Arethi Highlands, and Daneth Trollbane was there, and they're looking at the wall and stuff like that, and everyone's like mad because the women are like the main character, and the old guy is just sitting there being an old guy. But what I noticed, and I noticed this years ago, is that they're kind of, instead of the male characters being like these brawny fighters, they're more like wise fathers or wise grandfathers. And I think that is part of evolving as a game as well. The guys who first made the game were probably thinking of themselves as rock stars, you know, based on stuff in the game, right? Badasses and stuff like that, right? And so that's what the characters were. But the people now making the game might not think of themselves like that. And I'm just projecting here a little bit. I don't know for sure what they think. And so maybe they're putting manly characters in the way that they think someone's manly. Someone manly to them might be the person who gives them the wise fatherly advice or the wise grandfatherly advice. Now, and that is also manly. by the way. Your grandfather, if you have a grandfather who's still alive and he gives you really good advice, but he can't actually go swing a hammer anymore, or he can't lift something heavy anymore, that's still manly, right? It really is. And you'll appreciate that more if you have kids and you think about it for a second, because maybe you have kids and you are angry, but if you think about it for a second, you'll realize that is manly, right? Now, that being said, I still would like to see some more, big muscles and just awesome fighters as well too. Like you can have both. You don't have to have just one or the other. I like to see both personally. So, that's where I'm at when it comes to that personally. I've evolved, right? I went through that, like getting in a serious relationship, getting married, having kids. These things change you. Getting your own place to live, all these kinds of things, right? They change you and you evolve as those happen. And the game evolves and everything evolves over time. But some people don't evolve very much over time. And I think those people are the most angry, frankly. And I think they're angry at more than just World of Warcraft. And I don't want to sit here and be a psychiatrist or a psychologist for everybody in the whole world. But, I think a lot of those people are just angry in general. And so they latch on to something that they've had in their life for maybe 20 years. And they, project or take it out on that. And I frankly think if you were just less angry at life in general, that you probably would just in general enjoy not only this game more, but just things in general, life in general, everything in general. Going for a walk would be more enjoyable too, right? It doesn't even have to be anything about video games. So all in all, I wanted to make this video simply because I didn't like seeing some of the hate Holly Longdale is getting. She's a very, very important part of the team. I hope she understands that. I hope she doesn't get too down some of the negative comments that people are saying to her, especially from just the anti-women people. I hope not, because that would be really, really tragic, because she's been very, very good for the team. And, I hope somehow she would see this video so she can know that she is appreciated by most of us who do, like probably all of us who actually like the game, right? But especially those of us who didn't like Korthia and didn't like certain directions the game was going down. And then the game got a lot more approachable after she kind of got some power in the game. So we'll see what comes after this or whatever. Obviously, hopefully Midnight is just a good expansion. That'll quiet a lot of stuff down if people enjoy Midnight, if they enjoy the story, if they have fun playing the raids and doing everything. That'll calm a lot of it down if that's the case. If it's not the case, then it could continue on, but we'll see where we go from here. I'm obviously looking very forward to the World of Warcraft's future. I hope we get a TV show. I hope we get a movie. I hope we get another World of Warcraft game or universe game, right? Like Plunderstorm or whatever, right? I think that would be so cool and so epic. And I too would love to grow the franchise because I love when there's new players in the game. Now you might not understand this. I'll close on this. You might not understand this because you played the game for 20 years or 10 years or 5 years, whatever, right? But the very first time someone plays the game, even in 2026, they're in this world and they feel like they're in a world. It's like the first time a kid plays Minecraft, right? Now more people have access to Minecraft. You don't have to have a sub to play Minecraft, right? But it's like when a kid plays Minecraft, they see Minecraft and they think they're in this gigantic world because they are. And the same thing said about World of Warcraft, except for there's like a little bit more details and stuff in World of Warcraft, right? A little bit more world in World of Warcraft. And when new players play it, that's what they feel too. And so getting new players in the game just has people see this world and really enjoy it and be like, wow, this is really awesome. Especially ones that aren't like jaded returning players, but actual like new players or returning players who are open-minded, right? Maybe they evolved. So I'll end this one on that. I just felt like it was definitely necessary to say something when I see that stuff happens. I don't always talk about drama. I don't talk about drama stuff very often at all, and I don't plan to necessarily. But when something bad's happening, I think you should stand up to it, regardless of how big your channel is or how much of a voice you have. I also want to shout out 2 creators that I did see saying the correct thing on this instead of like dogpiling on it, and that would be Solso Breezy and Taliesin. I'm hoping I'm saying Taliesin's name right. If I'm wrong on that, I'm sorry. But I saw you guys both say something on Twitter which was correct, and that was that Holly was disagreeing with Chris Metzen that Warcraft wasn't bad, and yet people still were getting all angry about it. So shout out to you guys and anyone else that I didn't see who had a good take on it as well. But that is it for this one, guys. If you stuck with me this long, I please ask you to subscribe to the channel. Helps me out a lot. If you're already a subscriber, I have a link to Patreon in the description down below. And other than that, everybody, have a good one.